Hello everybody, and welcome back to more of our player guide series. My name is Zen, and I'm going to be walking you through another one of our player guides, and today we are talking about Warzones and Arena and how they work within the game. And Warzones and Arenas are both the primary source of PvP within Star Wars. So you have open world PvP and you have other PvP sources like, Galactic Starfighter is a good example of this. However, the primary PvP is taking place in the Warzones and Arenas. So if you were interested in doing PvP, that would be the main place that you would actually go within the game. For Warzone specifically, they are objective-based PvP matches, right? And there's 5 different maps with all different kinds of objectives. The first is Alderaan, and with Alderaan, it's a capture and hold gameplay mechanic. You go and you capture the points, and as you're holding the points, your score will go up, and then whoever's the first to a certain amount will win. Basically, that's how it works. And the same goes for Novara Coast, and we see this gameplay type also in Galactic Starfighter. It's basically the exact same thing with minor differences here and there of how it actually plays out, and they change it because there's a story attached to all of these, but under the hood, it's just capture and hold. The next is Huttball, and it's a capture the flag mechanic, but it's a little different. It's kind of like American football meets European football, and then a little bit of rugby added in for good measure, plus death traps of doom. And you just have to get to the ball into your end zone, and then you score points, and you can toss the ball to friendly players, and it's fairly self-explanatory. It's basically a capture the flag mechanic in just a more stylized route. The next Warzone is the Void Star, and this is a little different than the other ones that we've discussed. It's a attack and defense objective-based Warzone, so you would start on either defense or offense based on when you first get in, and then you would have to push the objectives as you go through. Once that match is done with, it'll flip, and then you'll switch to whatever you were or weren't before. So if you were the attackers, you would switch to being the defenders, and that's pretty much how that works. It's also fairly self-explanatory. And the last Warzone is the Ancient Hypergate, which basically is just an objective capture. You're trying to capture an objective to win, and the other team is trying to do the exact same thing. So you're just trying to keep each other from capturing the objective. But outside of Warzones, you have Arena, and Arena is the competitively focused PvP game type. It's a 4v4 deathmatch, and there's currently 4 maps in the game. However, the maps are all fairly similar. They all have little things to obstruct your view and to get out of line of sight and strange, layouts to them, but there's nothing too special about any of them. What is special, though, is that there is a competitive ladder that goes along with the arena, and you can see it at SWTOR.com/leaderboards, and there's an effective breakdown of each class and the person who is currently at the top of the list, and then their rating history. So you can click on any of the people, and you can see where their rating has been in the past. So it's kind of fun to look through those leaderboards if you're really interested in Arena, and figure out who's really doing well and see what they're doing to be doing well. However, with both of Warzones and Arena, you can queue for them by clicking on the icon and the minimap, and it'll pop up a pretty simple interface to do so. Both can be done with, a group of 4 people or queuing solo, stuff like that. So there's options here for how you want to play them. Personally, I would play as a group, but we'll talk about that in a moment here. The last thing you need to know about Warzones and Arenas is that there is a stat breakdown that you can see on the queue screen. So at the bottom, you can see your current stats. You can see your team rating for whatever season you're in, what's the highest earned rating they've had, and the win and loss count. Plus, you can see your solo rating with the same stats, and then there's the total stats with wins, player kills, how many medals you've earned, and how many MVP votes you've received. You can also see your current Valor ranking here, but you can also see that on your character screen if you just open that up. So there's multiple places to view your Valor ranking. And I would normally love to give you a huge breakdown of how each of the different Warzones and Arenas function and the best strategies to be using in them. However, I don't PvP We'll talk about that in a moment, but I'm going to say why you should PvP. If you're interested in killing other players, you know, that's always really fun, no matter what game you're in, whether you're playing PlanetSide or Star Wars or Battlefield. You know, it doesn't have to be an MMO, but if you're playing against other people, it's usually quite fun. So PvP in MMOs is kind of like a whole different kind of beast, and if you've never experienced it before, you should go try it out. I would highly suggest Warzones. They could be a lot of fun, but there is a little bit of competitive anxiety there for a lot of people. If you're gonna queue solo, sometimes you'll get kind of like anxious, and you're just like, I don't really want to, because I don't know what the maps are like, I don't know what the layouts are, and I don't know all the little tricks that everybody else does. But this kind of goes hand in hand with, you know, StarCraft anxiety. If you've ever played the competitive ladder on StarCraft 2, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You have to know so much for that game to be even decently competitive that you can get really intimidated by it very quickly. Fortunately, Star Wars isn't like that. Just jump in, play, especially play with friends, and you'll get the hang of it very quickly. Once you do that, then you could just continue to enjoy it. So just kind of get it out of the way, force yourself to do it at first, and then you'll probably fall in love with it, especially if you like PvP modes. But why don't I PvP? And I get a lot of questions about this. I get people requesting me to do PvP videos all the time. But here's the deal. I don't PvP because I am wired to be incredibly competitive. And I know that sounds, you know, contrary. Like, well, wouldn't you like PvP then? That's kind of the problem, is I do like PvP. However, I like PvP in a setting where I have a very good team, and a team that is going to play constantly and always be getting better and play at the top of their level. That's the kind of competitive that I am. I hate to lose. I get so frustrated when I'm losing constantly. I understand when you lose, you can learn a lot, and you know, when you're playing competitively and you do lose, it's often really fun to take a look at, you know, like, why did we lose? What were the mistakes we made, and how can we get better? But when you queue solo in PvP, if you lose, sometimes it's not your fault. Sometimes it could just be that your team just sucked, or the other team was much better than your team and just outplayed you. So it's not necessarily you always made a mistake that won or lost the game. So personally, I don't PvP because I, one, don't have a competitive PvP team to be playing with, and two, when you queue solo, it sucks to lose, and I really get frustrated with it, and it puts me off of the game very quickly when that happens. Additionally, I don't PvP because a lot of people who do and are queuing solo, which is what I would end up doing, because once again, I don't have a competitive team, then you find so many people who are just having a really bad attitude about it, because a lot of people are like me. They hate to lose, and when they're losing, they get upset. But the problem with people who don't understand how to be competitive, how to have a competitive mindset, they often, instead of just getting upset saying, whatever, you know, the team we just got outplayed, you know, whatever, they will instead find someone on the team that wasn't doing well, and they'll blame them for the loss, even though it may not have been that person's, you know, choice in the matter. It's not like they caused the loss on purpose. Sometimes that happens, but 99.9% of the time it doesn't. So you get some really bad attitudes out of people in PvP, which is the final reason why I don't do it. Where I tend to get my competitive, I guess, fix is out of raiding, and most of you know this. I love raiding competitively. I love trying to get the, you know, server first kills or world first kills, and I've been on raid teams in the past that have been able to do that effectively, and that's where I love to be, because I know I have a good team in order to do that. And if I don't have a good team, I know I can find one very easily. It's a little harder with PvP because there's so many people who are either just coming to the game to PvP and they'll only play for a short amount of time, but with you know, ops groups or raiding or stuff like that, you typically find people who are in it for the long run, so you have a lower turnover rate of players, I find. But you can also look at it this way. because I don't PvP in Star Wars, I'm not very good at it anymore. I used to be really good at PvP. When I was back in my Warcraft days, I had an amazing arena team, and we did incredibly well. I had a 2v2 and a 3v3 team, I think it was, or it was a 5v5. I don't remember how many people were on that second team. It wasn't as good as my 2v2 team, and that was just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. I don't get that fix out of Star Wars. I don't enjoy it as much. The PvP is really fun and satisfying here, but it's not my thing. So don't let my inability to PvP in the game turn you off from it. I would say learn from what I have going for me. If you like PvP, then take the exact opposite route than I am. Find a really good team to play with. Try not to lose, and when you do lose, learn from your mistakes, and then have a good attitude about it with those other people that you're playing with. Don't get mad at the other people if something happened. Like I said, learn from your mistake and just move on. You're there to have fun, and if you're winning, you'll have a lot more fun. If you're losing and you're in a bad mood, it'll put you even more in a bad mood. So just try to have a good mood, even about losing, and it'll really change your perspective, because you won't go on tilt as much. You won't get so upset with the game that you just continuously lose if you have a good attitude about it. And you'll find yourself winning more if you kind of look on the upside of things, usually. However, with that being said, though, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I won't try to answer them. I'm going to let our amazing community members answer them, because they know way more about PvP than I do, and they could probably give you a lot of good advice. So this one, I'm going to defer to the community. But if you have any questions, they'll answer them, and they'll do a great job of it, I promise you. With all that being said, we shall see you guys next time.